Hi everybody, Donna Salazar here for Gel Press, and today I have a video showing you how I made two Dreamy Girlie Grunge prints and the two different ways that I made them. So I had been playing for quite a while before I started filming, and I've got a ton of paint on that little side plate. And so I'm using one of the texture plates that I made in a previous video where I show how to remove paint that's on your embossing folders if you use them for texture on your gel plates like I do. And I'm going to use some tags to pull up the paint and the texture that I have on that small plate. I've got multiple different things going on at once. I'm making tags. I'll pull in a blank journal in a minute to try to fill up some of those pages. I don't know what I'm doing with that yet, but it'll be something and it'll be amazing. And as I'm pulling up these tags, I notice what is now left on the plate, and I think that that looks amazing. So I'm going to add some interference paint, which is basically just kind of like a clear paint, but it has like a opalescence to it. And I'm going to pull out that blank journal and try to pull up some of what is on that plate. And I always rub my papers really well to try and get a great connection and pull up as much paint as possible. And I did get a lot of it. I was very happy. So after I did the interference and it worked so well on the side plate, I decided I'm going to do that on the large plate. There is a whole lot of stuff there, even though you can't really see it. And when you use a paint that's really fluid and doesn't have a lot of colors, more transparent like the interference paint is, you would be amazed at what is going to come off of that plate. So even though you can't see it right now, you're going to see it once we pull the print up. And remember, always rub your paper for as long as you can. I use a Hammermill laser printing copy paper, and I have it in the two different sizes. And this is the larger size so that I can use it on my large 12x14 plate. And this is what gives me the really big prints that I can put into frames later. And you can see I rub that paper a lot. And there's still a lot on the plate, but look at everything that did come up. I love, love, love this print. And here's a still shot of it. And now we're moving on to the next print, and I'm starting with a really large stencil, and this one's from the Crafter's Workshop. It's one of the few you can actually see the name still because there's so much paint on all of my stencils. And I'm using a thicker bodied paint. This is Windsor and Newton, and it's just their titanium white. And I'm not looking for super clean, crisp edges on this stencil. If I wanted to have that kind of an image, I would actually clean my stencils and it would have a better contact with the plate. But because there's so much paint on these, the edges are actually coming up a little bit. So really it's going to be just a little bit of kind of a faded image in the background once I add on the other paints and textures. And you can see the edges are very rough. It almost reminds me of like something that would be on a wall that is faded. It had some kind of a paint on it, and over time just had kind of eroded away. So I'm not going to waste the paint that's on that side plate. I'm adding a little bit of texture to it, and I'm going to add it to one of the pages in the blank journal and over some of the tags. Alright, so now we're going to add on more paint. I love this color. It's from DecoArt. It's their Media Fluid Acrylics paint, and I think it's Cobalt blue. I can't really tell because there's so much paint on the outside of the thing. It looks like it says Cobalt blue. And I'm going to add a little bit more texture. And I'm using some gold paint. And this is an older bottle of Prima paint, but it's still really good. A lot of my paints get kind of chunky over time, but this one didn't. And I'm just trying to get a hint of those shapes. What I didn't realize I was doing as I did that, though, is that I took a lot of the large image of the damask off of the back. Then I added a little bit of texture in my homemade bubble wrap roller. And now I'm adding some opaque paint. So the first one I used a translucent iridescent paint, and this time I'm using an opaque paint. This is the Dina Wakley paint, and it's kind of a cream color, but it also gives a very dreamy kind of a print. And again, I'm going to just rub the heck out of that print, try to get as much of that texture off the plate as possible. And you can see the paper changes like texture. You can see when it starts to look like the paper's kind of, the moisture's coming through the paper. And that's when I know that it's time to lift. And here's a still of this print. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.